Moana 2 has been getting a lot of mixed reviews, and honestly, I get why. I watched the movie myself, and while it's not bad, it's definitely not what I was expecting. It doesn't match the original in terms of story and just the overall feel. Don't get me wrong, it's still a decent movie, but I think a lot of people were hoping for something more, especially considering how great the first one was. One thing that bothered me a bit was how many songs were in the movie. I get that it's probably aimed at younger audiences, but it was a bit much at times. Sometimes, it felt like the music was taking over the story instead of enhancing it. Another thing that left me a little confused was the plot. It's not bad, but it doesn't have the same impact or depth as the first movie. The storyline just didn't seem as strong or as compelling. A good example of this is Kung Fu Panda 4. That movie had so much potential, right? It could have been amazing. But unfortunately, it didn't live up to expectations, and it was really disappointing for a lot of people, including me. I love the Kung Fu Panda movies, but the fourth one just didn't hit the same way. I'm not a huge fan of Moana. I like the movie, but I'm not one of those people who watches it over and over. That being said, I really enjoyed the first one, and I was kind of hoping Moana 2 would be better, or at least on the same level as the original. But unfortunately, it didn't quite exceed those expectations. Like, it's not a terrible movie by any means. There were a few emotional moments and some funny scenes that I liked, but overall, it just didn't feel like what a lot of people were hoping for. Now, we've got Toy Story 5 coming up, and honestly, I'm not sure what to expect from it. With the way sequels have been going lately, I'm a little skeptical. It seems like most of the sequels coming out these days aren't really living up to the originals, or even coming close to matching their quality. Instead, they often end up being kind of disappointing or just average at best. So yeah, Toy Story 5 has a lot to live up to, and I'm not sure if it can pull it off. And then there's The Bad Guys 2, which I'm super excited about. I loved the first movie. It was hilarious, creative, and just so much fun. There's already a trailer out for the sequel, but we still don't know much about how it's gonna turn out. The thing is, it feels like most sequels nowadays are being made just for the money, not because the creators really have a story to tell. It's like they're just cashing in on the success of the original movie without putting as much effort into making the sequel as good, or even better than the first one. And that's honestly what's making so many sequels these days kind of disappointing. They're just not delivering the same magic, and it's frustrating. The only sequel that I can honestly say was somehow even better than the original is Inside Out 2. That movie was fantastic, and it really showed what a good sequel should look like. It didn't just try to ride the coattails of the first movie. It added new layers, expanded on the original concepts, and gave us something fresh and meaningful. It's the kind of sequel we all hope for when we hear about a follow-up. Now, there's talk about Ice Age 6, and to be honest, I think that's kind of crazy. Don't get me wrong, the Ice Age franchise has been a classic. It's had some really memorable moments, and the characters are super lovable, but do we really need another one? From what I've heard, it's looking like Ice Age 6 is happening, and while part of me is curious to see where they go with it, I can't help but feel a little skeptical. With so many sequels these days feeling like they're just being made for the sake of making money, I'm not sure how this one will turn out. We're also getting Frozen 3 soon, and Zootopia 2 is on the way too. I absolutely believe Zootopia deserves a sequel because it was such a well-done movie with a fantastic story, great characters, and tons of potential for more. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they'll do with it. Frozen 3, on the other hand, I'm less sure about. Frozen was such a cultural phenomenon, and while the second one wasn't bad, I'm not sure how much more they can do with the story without it feeling like they're stretching it too thin. And then there's Toy Story 5. I've been a huge fan of the Toy Story series from the start, but honestly, I feel like the story had a perfect ending with Toy Story 4, and some people say that the third one had the perfect ending, and I absolutely agree. I'm not sure what more they can add without it feeling like they're just milking the franchise, but who knows, maybe it'll surprise us, but I wouldn't be shocked if we end up getting Toy Story 6 somewhere down the line.